All right, hello, hello, hello. I'm Ethan Alexanian. Some of you, if you're listening, you might know me from my other show, Fans on the Run. This is not that show, because it is a lot more special than that show. Because not only am I talking to a fantastic guest, we're talking about a fantastic cause. As we all know, the coronavirus hit earlier this year, and so many aspects of our daily lives and things we love have been affected. And one that's been really hit hard is the music industry. Like, even think to yourself, how many concerts were you planning on going to this year? I already had tickets for, 3 or 4 back in January, and they're all gone. And that doesn't just affect the artists; it affects the tour crew, the roadies, the managers. And the industry's basically been decimated. And so recently, for the it actually ties in with the 60th anniversary of the single. Our guest today organized a wonderful cover of "Stand by Me" with a bunch of his friends, and this is going to be a really clunky introduction because I don't think I have to explain who this man is. Whispering Bob Harris. Bob, welcome to the show.
Hello, Ethan. It's great to join you on this show, and that you're dead right with your introduction as well. It's really well put.
Well, that's a first. There's a first for everything. Who knew I'd be capable of being articulate? First of all, I want to kind of ask you, besides the single, what music have you been listening to yourself as of late?
Well, as you know, I do a country show here in Britain on BBC Radio 2. So country and Americana are the two contemporary music genres, if you like, that I play most on the radio. Although I have to say, the idea of genre is blurring now, I think. I'm talking myself out of a job here, but I think country as a genre, maybe in 10 or 15 years' time, the millennials who aren't even born yet, let's say, the country that they listen to and think of will not necessarily be country, it'll just be music. I think that's the way music is going. In every way, the lines are blurring. So,
It'll just be
but
one
yeah,
big
so
melting pot.
yeah, I think so. But I love Chris Stapleton. I love John Prine, Casey Musgraves. That's where my taste mostly lies these days.
Well, I that's I'm gonna have to give some of that stuff a listen because I'm not the biggest scholar on country music per se,
Mm.
so I think I'll have to check out some of that stuff.
Yeah. So, what about you then? Who are you listening to at the moment?
I've been listening to a lot of ever since the beginning of this year. I've been on a British psychedelia kick of some stuff that kind of flown under the radar over here. So bands like The
Okay.
Move, The Pretty Things, Tomorrow.
Yeah.
What?
Okay. Well, when I first moved to London in 1966, and those were the kind of bands that were around then, and I was seeing bands like that in the venues that were springing up all over London. Like obviously the Marquee Club, but places like Middle Earth, Klux Clique, because the Railway Inn, where I first saw Fleetwood Mac when they were a blues band, and a kind of sister band or brother band to the Chicken Shack, who were they were both on a label called Blue Horizon, and they used to play at the Railway Inn in West Hampstead in London, and just around the corner from the Railway Inn were the Decca recording studios, where people like the Moody Blues and Procol Harum used to record and put their records out in Britain on the DRAM label. So
DRAM.
this is all around that same time. And the club that I mentioned there, Middle Earth, used to run right the way through the weekends, and it was a psychedelic club. I mean, I saw some American bands there too, the Byrds and Captain Beefheart and his magic band and stuff. And but mostly it was bands like Family, Traffic.
I forgot to mention Traffic is on that list of bands I've been listening to a lot lately.
Yeah, they're fabulous, aren't they? Or they were amazing around that time. So yeah,
they're tremendous. So I want to ask you, because you have a personal connection with Stand By Me. I want to ask, when was do you have any recollection of the first time you ever heard Stand By Me?
I do, yeah. 1961 was when it was released in Britain. It was originally recorded in October 1960, but it came out in Britain on the London Atlantic label. Atlantic hadn't got its own label yet. So there's this great label called London American that used to release lots of different labels under that one banner. And I've been a big fan of the Drifters. I love the Drifters. There Goes My Baby in 1959. I love that record so much. At the time, I'd never really heard anything quite like it before. So obviously I loved the vocalist, Benny King, and I started buying all the Drifters tracks and or singles at the time. You know, This Magic Moment and Dance With Me, Save the Last Dance For Me. I think I Count the Tears was the last one he did with the band. Anyway, he moved away from the group and then started doing his solo records. So I bought the first one, which was Spanish Harlem and First Taste of Love. And then I heard that the follow-up was coming out. So I went down to my local record shop in the town I was living in Northampton, in the middle of England, and waited for the van to arrive and bought Stand By Me by Benny King without having even heard it. So I took it home and I put it on my Dansette record player and put the needle on the vinyl. And it just, from that moment on, I fell in love with that record as I heard it through the sound. It's very open sound, very atmospheric, very warm sound to it. The Benny King's voice is so gorgeous and gives lovely expression to the warmth of the lyrics. The lyrics are all about friendship and support, and then you get to the middle of the record, and the strings sounded to me like the most beautiful piece of classical music I'd ever heard in my life. So put all those elements together, and this record was so special to me. And I got to meet Benny King a couple of times then afterwards. Once in the 80s and then once in the 90s.
Oh, wow.
I've got a photograph here of us just about to appear on a radio program together. And he signed my copy of Stand By Me. Incredible. And he was the most lovely, lovely man. So when it came to putting all these elements together, so here we are in the studio under the apple tree. We haven't been able to do anything to help musicians this year. A lot of them are struggling. What can we do? So 60th anniversary of Stand By Me, why don't we record a new all-star version? So we started reaching out to friends and people that we know, and everybody began to come back and say yes. And so we built up this incredible new version. Miles put a basic backtrack together and a click track, and then we sent that over. It's, you know, technology these days, you can do this, to send the backtrack to multiple people and have them send the vocal back or whatever it is. And that's exactly what happened. So we've got, I think it's 55 different people
55
appearing on this track. Yeah.
Could you tell us some of the names that are a part of the Whispering Bob AllStars?
Yes. Well, when the record starts with the intro, well, you could the triangle that you hear is me, because the triangle was so important on the original track. It really was. So
did you have to fight to be the triangle player on the single?
Well, Miles allocated it to me. I had to talk him out of me doing the 15-minute triangle solo in the middle of the track, but anyway, so and then in the background you hear Mark Knopfler playing guitar, Rick Wakeman beautiful sort of piano tinkling going on in the background. And then the first voice you hear is that of Jimmy Allen. Now, Jimmy is a great emerging country star, black country star in Nashville. And his was the first vocal we got back, actually. And it's so good. We could have, if nobody else sent a vocal in, we could have used Jimmy Allen through the whole song. His vocal was so incredibly good. So we thought it's right that he should start the track. So it begins with Jimmy, and then Rosanne Cash, and then John Oates, you know, Daryl Hall and John Oates.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think in order. I can't exactly remember in order, but then Peter Frampton, Beth Nielsen Chapman, Kimmy Rhodes, Ward Thomas and the Shires, who I mentioned earlier. Duane Eddy is playing guitar on the track. Mark Cohen is another one of the singers, you know, who did Walking in Memphis. That's how it is on the way through. And then we had a beautiful string quartet do the middle section, and we simply doubled that up. Well, I think we actually quadrupled it. So instead of just 4, it's 16. So it sounds like an orchestra. But yeah, and that's how it all came together. It's been a brilliant process. We've loved it.
How hard was it organizing a charity single in the time of COVID? Were there some unexpected complications that you didn't really think of?
Funnily enough, in some ways, COVID made it easier because people were at home, stuck at home. They'd mostly got some kind of recording equipment there with them. They hadn't got loads of other things to do. They weren't rushing around all over the place and trying to fit this in. They could really think about it and spend time getting it right. We asked everyone to film themselves too, or get somebody to film them when they were recording for us. So as well as the audio, we got the films back as well. And we would never have been able to do any of this previously. I mean, when you look at the big multi-star records from the past, like We Are the World or the Band-Aid recordings with Bob Geldof, you're getting everybody in a studio. Everybody had to travel to that studio. So there's an availability thing. Is everybody free on the same day? You know, whereas with us, it was entirely different. People could record and send, so long as they got it back to us within reasonable time for us to mix it, then there wasn't any problem. So even though the process, we started it kind of late, we only started about 3 months ago, it all fell together really quickly because it literally was just reaching out. Can you do this? Yes. Here's the backtrack. 3 or 4 days later, they'd send their vocal back or whatever with a little film, sometimes a message. Darius Rucker sent a lovely message for the project. And then, you know, Miles created the video from all of that material.
So I want to ask, could you tell us a little bit about the Help Musicians organization?
Yes, Help Musicians is a UK charity. It's been running for almost 100 years now, and it's set up. Well, it does what it says on the tin. Really, it's set up to assist musicians in times of trouble. So if they're having problems with their rent, or they're having health problems, or drug problems, or whatever it is, then Help Musicians have got a team of people who can help them. And through donations and everything else, I mean, we're not the only people this summer that have been doing things for Help Musicians. There's a great project called Folk on Foot that have been holding in-house concerts, maybe 12 artists, each of them playing from their own home, with people donating to watch that concert in the round kind of thing. They've been contributing a lot to Help Musicians as well. So we're all just hoping that money then filters down, to the people who really need it at the moment, because as you so eloquently put it in your introduction, people are really, really struggling. I mean, seriously struggling. And And as you say, it's not just the musicians, it's the infrastructure around them. But B, we're talking here about a group of people, a community, which is very, very gregarious. You know, musicians get out on the road. They're in front of people. They're surrounded by people. They perform to people. They want to get their music out to people. You know, they love chatting with people. People are what makes them tick. And, you know, I've even been very much aware of this myself because I do a lot of work on stage in, you know, various ways.
Mm-hmm.
I love being in front of an audience. You know, I love walking out onto that stage. I love all the camaraderie that takes place, you know, off stage and side stage. I'm missing that. So there's a mental health issue that comes into play here that applies to performers when they're restricted and they can't perform. You know, their whole expression, the definition of what they are, is kind of taken away from them. It's hard to explain it completely, but some of the people are really struggling now in that way.
And how can an average person help this organization?
By downloading the single, it's on all the platforms, and we have in Britain a GoFundMe campaign where people can donate to the GoFundMe campaign, and all the money will go direct to help musicians. It's gofundme.com/standbyme 2020. I mean, on social media, if you use the hashtag standbyme 2020, and or, you know, I'm at Whispering Bob across all social media platforms, and I've got a website which is the hub of all of this, actually, bobharris.org, O-R-G.
And I think lastly, I want to ask, of any of the other covers you've heard of Stand By Me, as it's, you know, a very popular song to cover, which are some of your favorites?
Well, I don't know whether I've got it in this little pile of singles. I really hope I might have. Oh, damn, but I don't. There's a version of Stand By Me by, as he was when he recorded it, Cassius Clay, became Muhammad Ali. He recorded in 1965.
Really?
That yes. But the one that in a slightly torn sleeve nowadays, but the John Lennon,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Aside from Benny King, I think John Lennon's is the really authentic version. He loves the record, and you can tell by the way he recorded it.
Well, and you actually interviewed John around the time he recorded that, when he was promoting the rock and roll album for the Whistle Test.
That's right, 1975. Yeah, it's a long time ago now. I never think of it as being a long time ago, but I was talking to somebody on the radio the other day who was doing an interview with me about a radio station I was at in 1982, and this guy told me already that he was 35 years old. And so I said, I was starting on this radio station in 1982, and I stopped and I said, oh my God. So I started on that radio station 3 years before you were born. And, you know, wow, it really made me think. I know it sounds like stating the obvious, but when I think of 1975, you know, I was 29. I'd already done a lot in my life by then. So 1975 doesn't feel a long time ago to me. But of course, you know, even somebody who's 35 years old now wasn't born for another 10 years yet.
I'm 18.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh.
But I mean, that's the thing. One of the things that I really, you know, was looking forward to talking to you, Ethan, is that you're interested in this stuff. You're interested in things from the past, and you know, I'm a great one for still loving the experiences of the past, knowing I don't live there. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
yeah.
Some people in my generation still live there. I don't,
mm-hmm.
but I love looking back at it now and again. You know, just reminiscing and talking about it all. I mean, Robert Plant is one of my best friends, and we had a big session the other night reminiscing about times when, I was touring with Led Zeppelin and around the band a lot in the 70s, and it's always nice to sort of touch down there every now and again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was great to know that you actually know about bands from that era, and have explored YouTube to find this information.
Yeah. Well, that's how I've been watching the Whistle Test for the past who knows how many years. I know who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And that's why I've been really, really excited yet very, very nervous for the past week and a half.
Well, this has been great. It really has.
And I just want to thank you for coming on the show.
It's been such a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it.